to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for coming along and hanging out with us today, having a beer and having some conversations. I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great, Tim. How's it going?
Doing great. You know, I'm doing all right, man. I hear that work has been trying to kill you lately.
Yes. Yeah. I leave a lot. When I leave for the day, I don't take a lot with me. It's mostly gone, but I'm here. That's and I'm fueled 100% on various craft beers. So that's what's keeping me going right now. So
they say that used to be like when you leave your job, pretend like you've got a coat rack and you hang up the job coat and hat and you leave it there. And you do the same thing when you leave the house. Don't take your home problems to work. Don't take your work problems home. So that's not entirely possible with all jobs, but
it gets weird when you work from home too, which is what a lot of people do these days. So like
there's not all the problems all the time.
Yeah, exactly. There's no hanging up of anything on a hook. There's also no putting on of pants either, which is I do love. I
approve that. You don't have any pants to hang up.
Exactly. Maybe take off. Mr. Rogers. You take off the shoes and the. Did he take? I don't think he took off pants. I think he's changed sweaters.
Are you saying? No, I don't believe Mr. Rogers took his pants off.
He kept the pants on, but he changed his shoes and his sweater.
I think.
I am. You're right. Yeah. You're right. I am. I apologize for that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Nate, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. I recognized Mr. Rogers, but I did not recognize the Jared Fogle comment. But unlike you two boys, I do not work from home, and I've been enjoying the warm, sunny weather that George has been
nice
experiencing recently. I think it was about 72 degrees today where I was.
Nate, you're not young. You're not young enough to not know Jared Fogle, the Subway guy.
Yeah, I knew Subway Jared. I just didn't remember his last name. His pants definitely.
Yeah. Anyhow, well, guys, back at it for another week. Let's talk about some beers of the week. Brian, what you sipping on?
Yeah, so I got into the Kokendorfer. I think you had that last week or the week before. It was the cream ale that we got sent with the quitting time. It's really good. It's a pre-prohibition style cream ale. They use flaked corn mash in it to give it a really nice bright color, and it's got a lot of rich cornness to it. It's really nice. I like that a lot. Cool. I would, if that were available here, I would drink it pretty regularly. It's very nice. I am working on Three Taverns Ritual Blonde now, and it's a coffee beer. I love a coffee blonde. I like that style, and that's what this is. It also has Tahitian vanilla beans involved, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy with that too. So it's an all-around good beer. I think it's like 5%, so it's an easy drinker, good coffee flavor, good blonde ale. Definitely recommend that if you can find it. I don't even know when I got it. I'm not sure if it's still available right now. And I'm going to finish things out with WeldWorks Citra Extra Juicy Bits, because just extra is not good enough for me. I need Citra on top of that. So yeah, of course, that's a hazy double IPA like all of these Juicy Bits are, and it features Citra. Plus, it's got Mosaic and Eldorado in there too, I guess. So that's what I'm working on.
It's been a while since we've had the debate of coffee blonde versus coffee cream ale, because I was always a fan, I think, of the coffee cream ales like
Carton.
What was it? Right? Yeah, like Carton's regular coffee.
Oh yeah,
and I think Rocket Republic, was it called Mach 3 or something? I forget.
Oh yeah,
that was really good. But the coffee blondes are nice. I got a thing for coffee cream ale.
I would be into it if that Kokendorfer made a coffee cream ale, because that cream ale is good. That's a good base for coffee. You don't have to add anything else, just a little extra coffee to that. That'd be a killer. I'd be all over that. So I believe they're out of
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma. We got that with the quitting time. So yeah, if you guys happen to be listening or somebody passes this along, put a little coffee in there. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah,
they may hate that idea. I don't know.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Nate, what you sipping on?
So I spent a little bit of time with Brian this weekend, getting out on town and then getting into a bottle share. And part of the share is he shared with me the quitting time cream ale from Marshall Brewing that a listener had sent into the show. So I pre-gamed tonight with that. And then in my glass right now from Scofflaw, I've got their Nice, which is a nice lager.
Nice.
Yeah. Very nice.
Good stuff. Well, guys, I got a Monday night bourbon barrel drafty kilt was my choice for tonight. But as the day has progressed, I'm ill, guys. I'm a little under the weather, so I've taken some medication, and I had a lozenge, so I've got that flavor. So I'm probably going to be sipping water. But if I was drinking a beer tonight, it would have been a bourbon barrel drafty kilt. So I'll make it through there.
It's the thought that counts, Tim.
Yeah, I don't feel well enough like to not do the show, but I don't know that I need alcohol tonight. So I'll do what I can. I'll persevere. So, guys, now you mentioned you attended the Sweetwater anniversary this weekend.
We did, yes.
And I did not. How was that? How are they throwing down there?
That was fun. They always have a stage set up with a lot of bands playing, and we caught a few of those, and I guess we really caught DJ sets, and I'm a fan of those. I really enjoyed those. Some of that's a little bit of a throwback in terms of electronic music to the kind of stuff that I like, but I got to hang out in the Woodlands again. They opened that up, so I was hanging out in the old place. Cool. Of course, we didn't have all the Woodlands beers, so there wasn't any the fun barrel aged, wild and funky stuff. But being there was really cool. It's I had a good time. It was fun. What'd you think, Mo, Mike, Nate?
So it was fun. Brian really enjoyed the DJ that he really enjoyed was Wonder Years. There was this local DJ artist that was really fun to listen to. It was cool because we both at one point complained about how crowded it was. And I know that probably a lot of people there were for the show, like the headliner was Sound Tribe Sector 9. But, oftentimes people talk about how these beer events seem to be a little lacking on the attendance. And so it was kind of, it
kind of nice to have a crowded event.
Kind of nice to have to complain about it.
Okay. Yeah. I went to a pinball tournament at Portal Pinball Arcade, a place not too horribly far from me. And it was crowded. So actually, poor timing on my part. I wasn't in the tournament. I was just going to play a little bit of pinball. So I got a couple games in, but they did have several machines that were like set aside just for the tournament. So it was bad timing on my part. But I went up there, met a buddy up there, and played around a little bit. But it was also crowded. So pinball and beer crowded this past weekend.
Heck good yeah! I'm kind of curious what pinball they were playing the competition on. Do you recall what that was?
So they had several that they had. They put signs on them that said this is just for tournament play, and it was like you would put you'd put your name on the list for what machine you wanted to play, and you kind of went in a roster, and you got points based on how you ranked on those machines. But I don't know exactly how many, but there were probably 6 or 8, 10 maybe that they had marked just for the tournament. I played the Labyrinth machine again, which I've really enjoyed the times I played it. And I hadn't seen that movie probably since it released, or maybe I think it used to play on HBO back in the day.
Oh yeah,
so
it definitely did. There. Yes.
But I watched it again because I didn't remember it. And so the Muppets, those guys are ballers. Yeah, I don't think they get the appreciation they deserve.
Yeah. I always found them slightly creepy even as a child, but I have vague recollections of it. So
something interesting, I got an Allagash White at the pinball place, and it was lager clear.
Really?
And, yeah. And I'm like, man, but the flavor was there. It was definitely Allagash White, but I'm assuming it was probably a keg that's probably not horribly popular, and it was very, very cold. So they probably just the haze probably just dropped out of it.
Dropped out.
Yeah. So, but I made it through. I survived that, guys. So
congrats, Tim.
Thanks. Well, Brian, NA beer, it's a hot topic, so for and against, and just chattering about it. I think a lot of, maybe not a lot, but several brewers kind of snubbed their nose at it at NA beer. And there was an article that went around recently talking about the most overrated beer styles. And someone said NA beer, and they commented that it's not an overrated style. It's just the stuff that's very popular right now, they did not feel was very high quality. And the comment was basically, if people come to accept this as the norm and the quality, they're going to associate that with craft beer, and they didn't like that possibility. So opinions are everywhere, but no matter the opinions, Brian, craft beer, NA beer continues to grow, and they even set a sales record in January.
Yeah, the numbers do speak loudly. Non-alcoholic beer claimed a record 4.2% share of the grocery store category of beer sales during dry January, according to Bump Williams Consulting. It's also seen a 23.5% increase in year-over-year dollar sales in that category. The growth amounted to an additional $6.5 million spent on non-alcoholic beer at grocery stores compared to last year. Totaling just under $34.2 million for the month. So not only that, non-alcoholic beer led all like related beverage segments in dollar sales growth at grocery stores, including canned cocktails. And I got to stop there to say I am jealous of anybody who can get a proper canned cocktail at a grocery store because we can't. But also it beat non-alcoholic spirits. It beat non-alcoholic wine. It beats super premium alcoholic beers, and it beats all the flavored malt beverages in terms of the growth. So it was January was amazing for non-alcoholic beer, and while I understand that there's room for improvement in all non-alcoholic beer, and it's going to get better over time. Man, I do love that people are into this and they're buying it, and it's beer, man. It is beer, even if it's only 0.5% or less of alcohol. So, yeah, this is good. This is good news.
Yeah,
I like this. I'm good with this.
I'm okay with NA beer. I think it's nice that option's out there. And here's the thing, man. Everything starts somewhere, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, you and I have talked back to the 90s brew pub. And to me, there's a flavor that a 90s brew pub had. And, obviously at the time, we loved them, but beer's better now. I guess that's the simplest way I can put it. The qualities of beer are better now. They keep improving the processes and everything. And now we do have places like Sierra Nevada that are offering NA beers. There's major players getting into the game that they're not going to cut any corners, doing anything. And I've said, we've talked about this many times before. And I was talking to an NA brewer one time, and I forget the way I worded the comment, but I said something to the effect of asking them about how close it should be to an alcoholic beer flavor wise, and they commented that's you shouldn't notice any difference. It should taste the same. I've yet to find that. The only one I think, Brian, was at the peanut butter stout. I think that we said that was close enough that the Bravas peanut butter stout. But we have put some NA beer, some high-rated NA beers in some of our blind tastings, and every single time, every single one of us can pick them out. So, there is some growth potential there still. But you remove the alcohol from something, even if you don't taste alcohol in beer, it is contributing to the overall flavor profile.
I might almost be fooled by Heineken. They're not alcoholic.
Okay,
it's very close. If somebody didn't tell me it was black beet porter, I think non-alcoholic black beet porter I could believe that was an alcoholic beverage. I don't know that I would buy into it being actually black beet porter. I'm not sure about that, though. I'd have to double check. I think that one might give itself away. Sam Adams, just the haze. I remember having that and thinking, man, I don't know if I would have known. Like, if you just said this was a Sam Adams hazy IPA and I drank it, I'm like, okay, it's not bad. It tastes. They did a really, really good job with it.
But again, we're talking about Deschutes and Sam Adams and these big boys that they know they've been playing this game a while. So definitely something they'd have their hands on. But anyhow, I'm still curious to see what else comes out there. Again, it does give options if you can't drink or choose not to drink, and it's cool to see more options getting out there, especially with these big, highly regarded craft breweries getting in the mix there. So pretty cool stuff. But Brian, something we reported on this months ago when they announced that it was coming. The American Craft Beer Hall of Fame very recently announced their first inductees. They did a very nice kind of simulcast thing where they were at New Realm here in Atlanta area. I believe they were at I actually forget the other breweries. I know Sam Calagione there so I'm assuming they were at Dogfish Head.
I think Bierstadt Lagerhouse might have been there as well.
Lagerhouse, but they had 3 or 4 locations across the country. A couple of our friends are involved with it, but they announced our inductees, and there's so many great people that could be put into the mix, but I don't think anyone who follows craft beer can really argue with the first group.
I don't think so either. So these people they voted on this inductee list. They have an entire, I don't know if we talked about the entire board of directors that they have, but yeah, basically people make nominations. You nominate a certain number of people and everybody votes on them, and the people that get the most votes make it in for that year. And so the people on this list are the ones that got the most votes for their work in initiating, sustaining, and promoting the American craft beer industry. And the list includes, and this will not surprise anybody, Michael Jackson, the much-loved English beer writer and journalist, who also did some TV programming for beer back in the day. Obviously, he had to be in there. If he wasn't in there, I don't think anybody would have believed.
Would have been meaningless, right?
Yeah, this wouldn't have been a real Hall of Fame. Fred Eckarts, I think most people have heard of, craft beer advocate and writer. Charlie Papazian, obviously, founder of the Great American Beer Festival, the president of the Brewers Association. He's done a ton of other things. So
homebrewing, although this is the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame, he was very The Joy of Homebrewing, I think was the name of his book. So very instrumental in spurring the homebrew movement too. He
trained basically informally so many people that wound up being professional brewers. So absolutely. If without him, there would not have been a pool to pull from for professional brewing. So Charles Finkel, co-founder of Merchant Duvin, and also Roseanne Finkel of Merchant Duvin. They're in. Bert Grant, the founder of Yakima Brewing and Malting, was inducted. Ken Grossman, of course, founder of Sierra Nevada. Jim Cook, the founder of Boston Beer Company, obviously. Fritz Maytag, who I love seeing on this. So he was the longtime owner of Anchor Brewing, RIP Anchor Brewing. I know they're supposed to come back, but they're still not.
We still have
back,
hope.
So,
we still have hope.
And also the founders of New Albion, which is Jack McAuliffe, Susie Stern, and Jane Zimmerman. So if you were counting, there are actually 12 inductees. In future years, the inductees will be limited to 10. And I'm honestly a little surprised there were only 10. There are a lot of deserving people, I think, that could be put on the list. But I guess you got to save some people for future years.
Yeah,
and,
you do.
Yeah,
you do. And that's just it, especially inaugural. That's got to be tough, man. That couldn't have been an easy decision for the committee to decide. You pick out 10 or 12 people out of everybody because no one's in there yet. So it's not like, well, they're in there. And heck, you see it, whether it's baseball or music or whatever, there's always debate every year when they announce the inductees there. But cool to see that coming for craft beer, man. And some great names there. Did really great things for beer. If you don't know any of those names, hit the Google and look up their stories, because they've all got great stories to tell, all pioneers in the American craft beer movement in one way or another. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I want to go back and watch some. I saw some of them. Michael Jackson was it an entire video series he had, like was it the 80s or early 90s? Yeah,
I think he did it for, I don't know if it was PBS, but something like that he did. He did a series there. So I got into craft beer on the tail end of really his reign there, so to speak, his popularity. And, I've always known the name, but was not around when he was active. So, well, Brian, have you ever been to a bar and got a bad beer and you're like, I've had this beer. This is a good beer. Something's off there. And the bar just isn't taking care of things?
I definitely have. Definitely. I can remember there being times when and this is going back a lot of years, where a Guinness was unexpectedly sweet. I'm like, why is this so sweet?
A little sweet tart.
Something's up here. And at the time, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, they got really sweet Guinness here. That's kind of neat. Like thinking back, and I'm like, I know that there was something wrong with like draft lines, or somebody poured the wrong beer or mixed something up.
Yeah,
I definitely have. And I've seen some really nasty beer glasses too in my time. So
people get sloppy with the glassware, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. I remember a bar in Atlanta that, like, they have beer, but I don't think that's there's bars it's like they serve beer, but they're not really beer bars. And I got a Sweetwater IPA there, and I'm like, I know this beer, and this is not right. So bad tap lines. But Brian, in Colorado, they're doing something to combat that. They're actually came out with a certification to combat bad beer practices.
Yeah, so they're a certification to basically recognize people who do not engage, bars specifically do not engage in bad practices. This whole thing, this certification program, was the passion project, or spearheaded by Bill one of the owners of Bierstadt Lagerhaus. He's getting active. We're hearing his name a lot more often. To get the certification, bars will need to demonstrate to the Brewers Guild of Colorado that they can meet the standards for three things: clean draft lines, clean glassware, and proper beer presentation, which, surprise, surprise, includes foam. Your beer should have some foam on top of it. And the point of it is the consumer should get a beer that resembles in flavor and visually what the brewer intended it for it to be, basically. Dirty draft lines and glassware can affect the flavor of the beer, not to mention be a possible sanitation issue if it's left to an extreme. And beer served without head is both gassier and less flavorful due to the loss of the aromatics that you're not getting from the foam. There's no foam releasing it. It's all still stuck in the beer. Part of tasting things is how it smells. Like, part of your tasting comes through your nose. Without the foam, you're not getting it. You're getting a beer that's going to be kind of lifeless, in fact.
Nate,
gassy and lifeless.
You had a recent run-in with a no foam beer. How was it? How did that come across to you?
So last night, after a few laps at the local roller rink with Party Nates, we went out for a late night dinner and beer, and had I think the kids call it a boss pour of Founders Porter. And there was no foam. Definitely left me feeling gassy. Definitely didn't taste the same as when I've had it in the past. And it looks flat when you get it with no foam. It doesn't present very well. It doesn't taste as well. And the feeling the after effects for the next hour or two is just unpleasant.
I've got served a no foam beer, and some places try very hard to serve them to you that way.
Oh, yeah.
They'll put the nozzle in there and they're proud of it. And I've actually asked, and Brian, I think I actually saw you do this first, but ask for another glass and pour it back and forth and open it up. I tell you what, if you're out there and you get a beer where they poured it with no head at all, take a sip of it, taste it, make notes of how it tastes, get you another glass and pour it back. Don't go crazy, but pour it back and forth enough to bring some of that carbonation out and put a head on the beer and taste it again. I guarantee you're going to notice a fairly substantial difference in the way that beer presents.
You'll wake it up. It's asleep.
Snap it.
You have to give it a little agitation when it's coming out of the tap, or it'll still be asleep. I was going to ask why Nate didn't just pour it back and forth between glasses, but I realize that's maybe something that I'm the kind of person that would actually do that, and I don't think most other people would. But it does
get you a plastic straw or a clean butter knife or something, and give it a little jiggle there and break some of that carbonation out of it. So. You
can do like that YouTube video. The guy was talking about all the gas in the beer, where he just a paper napkin. He just like slammed it in there a couple of times.
Yeah,
it just exploded everywhere. The thing you'll notice when you pour back and forth is how much volume escapes. You won't be able to pour all that back into a pint glass. There's a lot there. So
it's magic.
It is. It's like getting a beer and a half if you do that. So in a way, if you know what, Owen Ogletree, he's the guy that used to do this, or probably still does, 1 beer, 2 glasses, because he's very much a cask fan. He'll get the beer wherever he goes and he'll pour it back and forth between glasses. And he winds up getting something that's, headier and, more aromatic, but, also lower carbonation. So it drinks super easy too. So, something.
Bars hate nerds like us, man.
Oh yeah, we double down on their glass.
Actually, certain bars. I think I've told this story before, but the Porter Beer Bar, under new ownership now, but Molly Gunn used to be one of the owners there, and this was back several years ago when the slow pour craze kind of came out, like when it was new on the scene, and the Porter was one of the first. If it was the first place in Atlanta to have the slow pour taps, I think. if not
Might have
the
been,
first,
yeah.
one of the first. But we went there. Brian and I went there to get, some slow pour beers. And we did learn after our first trip, order you like a regular poured beer and a slow pour beer at the same time, because it takes a while to pour them, properly and get them ready. But we ordered some. The slow pour beers came up. The server was bringing them to our table, and she got stopped by another table and held her up. And she was holding a tray on her hand. And after being there a few minutes, the foam on our beer started to fall. And Molly walked by that tray and saw those beers and grabbed, without saying a single word, grabbed both of them and took them back and re-poured to get the proper pour on that. So, and that, that little thing there, she didn't, make any issue of it or anything. She just grabbed them and made it right. And you got to love a bar like that they really are going all out. But Brian, I think we got you in the middle of your story there, but this is the inaugural year of the program.
Yeah.
And initially they're going to offer this certification for free for these bars, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested, get in contact with them in future years. You will have to pay to cover it, and they are hoping that this certification, because it exists and people will see that they are certified, it'll help educate the consumer that there is a better way. Your bubbles on the side of your glass and zero foam on your shaker pint, those are not good things. See, these are not things you want. So yeah, I would love, in fact, for this to become a thing in more places. I'd love to see it here in Georgia. I know that the brick store and Porter would immediately get it. Goodword would immediately get it. Like all of our favorite
cask mark certified right now.
Oh, they are cask mark. That's true. Yeah,
which is so they have gone through the process of making sure they do cask ale properly and been certified for that. So
if they're doing that, for a fact,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's no big deal. So I would look for a list like that. I would prioritize getting my beers from those places when I go out. I'm not looking for just any place to get a beer. I'm looking for the place that has the best beer, does the best job.
Right.
I want the best. I want good glassware. I want clean lines. I want all that stuff. Like, beer is not cheap anymore, people. We all know that, but let's get it from places that do a good job with it, that at least,
There is a beer bar here that the owner is extremely nice. The food is good. They have a fairly good tap list, and they very frequently serve their beers in paper cups.
Oh,
and that, if you're at a festival, an event, something like that, I get it sometimes. But if I go to a craft beer bar and you're putting me in a solo cup, I'm disappointed.
You said plastic cups. You said paper. I'm like, wow, like Dixie cups?
Sorry, plastic. No, they just serve them in a paper bag. Just pour them straight in the bag.
Pour it right into your cupped hands.
Yeah.
Hey, bagged beer is a new thing for 2025, boys.
Let me get a bag of it. Hey, I have drank, but still lambics in a bag. I have no problem with that.
I'm down with that.
That's from Primitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After we talk about all our foam and all that, we're getting psyched up about totally flat beers.
That's right.
Well, Brian, before we move on, how about we give a shout out to our sponsor?
Yeah. So as Mo Mike Nate was saying, the weather's been really nice the past week. I think most of this week anyway. I think we're back to patio weather basically, and nobody does patio beers like Truck and Tap. So let's take a look at the tap lists and pick a few good ones for hanging out on the patio. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with Wild Leaf's Alpha Abstraction 28. Volume 28, I should say. I've been enjoying the Alpha Abstraction line since the very first one. I always look forward to the next. They're always a lot of fun. This one is a double IPA, which of course it is. That's what they all are, I believe. And it's double dry hop with bergamot hops, which I don't know if I've heard of bergamot hops before.
Hops, huh?
Yeah. So I was looking into that because that was very interesting to me. And they have the nickname of OAF, or Orange AF, which I think gives you a good idea of what to expect from the beer. Spoiler, it's orange, like a lot of it. Anyway, at the Duluth location, I'm getting Six Bridges Just Red. It's an Irish red ale that's reportedly deep, rich, and malty with notes of chocolate, caramel, and toffee. I love an Irish red ale, and, Six Bridges does good work, so I'm looking forward to trying that one. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is New Realms Euphonia, which happens to be on the side pull tap like we were talking about. So no shortage of foam there. drinking a bright and floral German Pilsner on the patio with a nice, really luscious head on top. Sounds like a great time to me. Almost any time of the year, especially during patio season, though. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with Yazoo's A Pale Green Horse IPA. It's a hazy IPA that features Peacherine, Superdelic, Nelson Sauvin, and Euphorix hops. And I think I only know about one of those hops, so I think all of the other ones are new to me. I definitely have to try that because I got to know what that's all about. And if you're hearing this on the Saturday the show drops, make sure to stop by Truck and Tap. They're holding a Mardi Gras party at all locations at 8 p.m., featuring live music, special cocktails, and no shortages of other beverages to choose from. So beer, they get spirits, they get wine, they get everything else. They've got food. There's always a food truck on hand. For all the details about the food truck schedule and everything else, head over to truckandtap.com. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thanks, Truck and Tap. You're the best. Brian, you know what? Let's all give Brian a round of applause for the work that he puts into the shout out for Truck and Tap, because he makes sure to go out, look at those beer lists, see what's tapped to give you the freshest information possible about the fresh beer out there. So cheers to Brian Hewitt.
It's always fun to look and see if I can find a theme in their beers, because I don't know if they're specifically going with a theme from one week to the next, but you can usually find one.
Yeah, if you put it in there. And Brian, I don't know if you've mentioned roulette recently, the old Truck and Tap roulette.
No.
That's always an option. That is always an option if you go to Truck and Tap.
The right way to do it, I think, you got to do the Truck and Tap roulette with the beer and the food truck. So
and the food truck.
Let the numbers tell you what you're drinking and eating together. That is how you win.
I too like to live dangerously.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Well, Brian, speaking of living dangerously, we love to take a look at places and who has the most expensive beers at various locations. We've looked at various sports arenas in the past and cities that are, I think we go both directions. Who's got the cheapest, who's got the most expensive. But a recent article, and, shout out again to Vine Pair. They do a lot of stuff that we piggyback on to share the story. And also from Finance Buzz, we have the airport beers that are the most expensive through 2024.
Yeah. So we recently talked about, and I kind of combined this with an older story just to see how much overlap there is, because I'm a bit of a nerd like that. But we talked about the states with the highest taxes. The interesting thing is the high beer taxes are not a good predictor for how expensive a beer will be in some of the top airports around the country. So before we get into the most expensive, we'll start with the average price of a beer in an airport in the U.S. in 2024. It was $8.97, which was up 21% from the previous year, which was $7.42. That was 2023. Crazy growth. So does anybody have any predictions on the most or the least expensive airport beers and what you think the price will be?
I do. I don't. Yes, I got to guess. And Brian knows we look at his notes and cheat, so he's actually got it blacked out this time. We can't see on his notes. My guess is going to be most expensive is JFK.
Okay.
And $14. That's my guess. Least expensive, Tampa, $6.
Okay.
Wow.
There we go. Those are my guesses. Those are my just off the cuff guesses.
Did you have any guesses, Mo Mike Nate? Did you want to?
So I'll guess. I'm not going to throw out dollar amounts, but I'm going to guess. The most expensive beer is likely going to be somewhere. I'm thinking Alaska or Hawaii. I'm thinking Alaska was my first shot on that. Was going to be the most expensive, because you got to fly it out there, and it's kind of a little bit more remote. Least expensive. I'm going to take it with the home crowd and just say Hartsfield Jackson is.
I want to throw LAX in as a possible contender for most expensive. So I'll say JFK or LAX, but that seems like low hanging fruit to guess those.
Yeah, it does. So the airport with the most expensive beer is LaGuardia. So you were close with JFK.
Okay, all right.
I believe JFK is in the top 5, I think. So yeah, LaGuardia, New York, it comes in at a whopping $13.83 a beer. And they didn't say how many ounces of beer was. And I'm guessing
that's a 6-ounce pour.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if we're only just talking about 12 ounces here, but they didn't specify. Their average beer price is 54% higher than the national average, which is ridiculous. As we reported in the previous show, Tennessee was a state with the highest beer taxes, but the Nashville International Airport boasts the 8th cheapest beer in the U.S. So they're on the cheap side if you fly through there. New York was not on the list of the states with the highest beer taxes, which still seems surprising to me, but they definitely were on the list for the most expensive airport beers. The cheapest airport beer in the U.S. is at Salt Lake City, SLC, which will set you back a mere $6.40.
I almost guessed SLC, but then I thought, no, that you'll pay a sin tax there. That was kind of
that was you'd expect, or it would be more expensive once you figured out because they do like an ABW type of measurement for alcohol or something like that.
Right, alcohol by weight instead of by volume.
Yeah, which is. Confusing, but okay. The only overlap between the 10 states with the highest beer taxes and the 10 airports with the most expensive beers was Honolulu. So you were right to think Honolulu or Hawaii and Alaska as being expensive beers, Nate. So that's they're up there. Hawaii is tied for third in terms of highest beer taxes, and Honolulu Airport comes in fifth for most expensive airport beer at $11.41 a beer. The rest of the top 5 most expensive airport beers are at San Francisco. You'll pay $12.61. Dallas Fort Worth, which wouldn't have guessed.
Surprised
Texas,
at that one. Yeah,
$11.99. JFK is in number 4. I would have expected this at $11.82 a beer. It's considerably less, like almost $2 less than LaGuardia for whatever reason, but. All of the top 10 most expensive airports have average beer prices above $10. The article notes that the airport beer tends to be more expensive at busier airports, so the actual busyness of the airport probably says more about the price of the beer, or is more of a correlation than the actual state taxes. 8 of the 10 most expensive airports are also in the top 15 busiest in the U.S. So there you go, a little compare and contrast type of situation there, but.
Airports are such an interesting, ecosystem there.
Yes, they are.
Airport rules. Cocktails at 8 a.m., totally fine. Beer, 10 a.m., I'm wearing sweatpants, a hoodie, and I'm having cocktails at a TGI Fridays at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. And that is totally acceptable.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay. Now that's normal. That's normal. Which, you know what? If you're a raging alcoholic, maybe go, like in Atlanta, they have a restaurant area you can go to that you don't have to go through security and all that. So you could hide. Like if you just wear like baggy sweat clothes and all that, just because you're like a loser and an alcoholic, you could blend in at the airport.
Who are you talking about, Tim? It seems like this is a personal assault on somebody.
I tell you what, I've been wearing sweats and t-shirts a lot lately because they're comfortable. And a lot of the times I don't have anything to do except run errands. So maybe I'm talking to myself, Brian.
Maybe you are.
Maybe I am.
I will say that as somebody who used to fly a fair amount internationally, I would wind up in places where it was the morning when I was still on an evening time and be annoyed that like bars were closed or something like that in the airport and like the food was all breakfast or something like that. So I mean, I kind of get it because the people arriving are, I mean, who knows what time zone they're actually in at that point in time. Like I'm ready for some whiskey and everybody's eating, egg sandwiches and stuff. So.
Other than getting to your flight, the time really has no meaning in the airport.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's a time zone-less place.
Well, Brian, I feel like this is the second time you've mentioned this. And so I feel like you got a little bit of passion for this story, a little bit of excitement in your soul for this story, Brian. But there is a Pringles beer can chicken collaboration coming.
Did I mention this before? I thought I hadn't covered this yet.
Did we cover the whole story, or did you and I just talk about it?
I think we Nate, might have just talked about it.
Do you recall?
Special Pringles?
It's special enough. We're going to tell you again. If we've said it once before, we're gonna tell you again about the Pringles beer can chicken collaboration.
People do need to be reminded. There's still time to prepare yourselves.
They drink, Brian. They'll forget things.
They'll forget, and we may have to remind them again before it drops. But
let's see if we can Groundhog Day this story, like work it in
every show from here until
they've said that before.
Yeah. Yeah, so Pringles is jumping on the snack collaboration bandwagon with a new limited edition chip for 2025. I think they may have been doing a few more than this, but they'd had rumors on the internet for a while. People were talking about. I don't know how this leaks, but it's probably marketing. But Pringles and Miller Lite, and so the rumor is true. Like you said, the chip is Pringles X Miller Lite beer can chicken. The new flavor is said to feature the savory taste of roasted chicken and Miller Lite. So it's beer and chicken flavored chips. Look for the beer can chicken Pringles to start hitting retail stores in May. So we've got some time to get ready for it. I'm not sure about this flavor. I'm going to get some if I see it. Would you guys get it, or would you just like, no?
Oh, yeah.
No,
I'll try them. Of course I'll try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I drank a beer that tastes like chili. Of course I'll drink a chip that tastes like beer. So
I will do weird things to abuse myself. I'm not above buying beer can chicken chips. So even though it's still too early for this to come out, I've already kind of started looking to see what else they have out there, and I picked up a Hot Ones collaboration. The show on YouTube, they're with Pringles, and it's the Los Calientes Verde hot sauce is I think the name of it, and it's a very green hot sauce. It's very good. It's got a lot of kick, like. A lot of the hot chips that you get out there, they're like, that builds. There's some heat there. These build faster.
They got it, huh?
Noticeable. Right. Yeah. They're good, but they're the kind of hot that once you start eating, you really can't stop because that's when you feel the pain. As long as you're eating, you're good. So it's
push through the pain.
Exactly.
I got there's an Indian joint near me that does. I believe it's their chicken 65. That like the baseline heat level for them is just crushingly painful hot. But it's so good, Brian. It's so good. They do it just so well, the seasoning in that, and it's one of those things like, have you ever eaten anything so hot that I'm not going to say you feel like you're going to die, but you're like, this isn't safe. This is too much. This is too far. And that's I will frequently ask myself, why am I eating this? And then I'll take another bite.
Continue.
I was recently, not recently, but many years ago, I was in a place that had an area of town that had a lot of. I think the people were actually from Bangladesh, but they did a lot of really, really, really hot Indian food. Chicken vindaloo was a particular like regular one that people were having. And so I was drinking that with Belgian beers. And I got to tell you, I felt that like the tearing up, nose running, pain. Like this is probably not good for me, but it is really good. And every time I stop, it hurts a lot. So I'm just going to keep going, I had some of my most, maybe most memorable hangovers after that, because that's rough. It was Leffe. You're drinking Leffe and you're eating these things that dehydrate you through like tears and saliva and everything else. Like you'll be weeping while you're eating and like, no, I'm having a great time. I love this,
Oh, I love it so much. I can tell. Yeah,
the next day with the sugar and the dehydration. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
I mean, there's a Himalayan joint near me that does some really good stuff. But if I go beyond, like you can choose your heat level when you order. If I go beyond mild, it's too much. And they've got like 5 different levels. So I can't even imagine what in the world is going on with some of those higher levels. I'm terrified to try them. I'm just not going there. I tried medium once and I won't do that again.
Yeah. Medium was too dangerous.
It was too much, man. That's like I said, that chicken 65 stuff. I'm not normally one to eat stuff that hot, but it's just so good that I push through on that one. So I make it. Well, Brian, consumer alcohol spending. We're watching beer spending everywhere. Where are people buying beer? Are they buying beer? What the heck is going on? And it says it looks like there's a little bit of a shift to on-premise spending.
Yeah, this is interesting. I saw this and I'm like, I was surprised. I'm like, is this really a thing? I'm not sure if I believe it, but got this from Brewbound, and it's according to a report from the Bank of America Institute. It says that consumers may not actually be spending less on alcoholic beverages like we think they are. The numbers seem to indicate that there is actually a shift of spending to on-premise venues versus the off-premise stores. So as you know, you buy something in a restaurant, or a bar, it's going to be a lot more expensive than if you buy it in like a beer store or whatever. So Consumer spending at bars in January increased by 1% year over year. Meanwhile, consumer spending at alcohol stores declined by 5% year over year. Again, that's it's a lot more expensive at the off-premise store, the bar, wherever, than it is at like an alcohol store. So I'm thinking that maybe the difference here makes up for each other. Apparently, baby boomers are leading the trend here with the largest increase in spending at bars, 4% year over year. And I mean, I think this is one of the generations that is all about going out, having a good time, and part of life was going to the bar with your friends. Gen X is also on board as the generation to record a year over year increase in spending at bars. They're up 1%, so 1% for baby boomers, or 4% for baby boomers, 1% for Gen X, and this is after their spending contracted through most of 2024, so it's picking back up again. Younger generations are more likely to spend their entertainment budgets at restaurants instead of bars, and I think this is likely due to family considerations. So I think that if you've got a family, you can't do as much at a bar, so they may still be buying on premise, but it's a little harder to, their beer on premise, it's a little harder to track because it's hidden behind the other expenses at a restaurant. So yeah, that is what we've learned. And it actually sounds like it could be interesting. This could be a good trend.
I would argue with the fact that, like them saying, it may not actually be spending less. There may be some growth, but I think we know people are not spending as much as they were on alcoholic beverages. I mean, we're not seeing all these brewery closures because it's booming out there,
That's true. People aren't showing up at the breweries to buy the beers.
But seeing some growth on where they're spending. Okay, all right, I can get behind that.
But there does seem to be a trend. Now, it's with the older generation, so that's another concerning factor. I'm not sure if this is ever going to carry on beyond Gen X.
Gen X, we're the last saviors of beer.
It could be, or it could be that we're finally old enough that we don't have to worry about like the family consideration. Like we can just go to a bar and have a good time and not worry about what do we feed the kids, what's there for them. So this could be that situation too.
Madness. Well, we hope that beer does okay, man. Wherever you're spending it, buy your beer, right?
Yes, please do. Please buy it somewhere.
Please. Well, y'all, we are going to wrap up the show. We thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. If you enjoy what we're doing, please do tell a friend, share our show, send the link around, tell them to give it a listen. We would greatly appreciate that. If you really dig what we're doing, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. We'll get you in our Discord server, and we will send you some cool swag. With all that said, we hope you have a really good week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.